Nick,
Nick, good job on that micron.
talk us talk us through this because it's revisionist history, but I do remember you coming out. Could you just walk us through it? What was it was technical, obviously, that triggered the position you put on, and if you're sticking with it.
Well, it was just in theory, the spirit of it was head and shoulder-ish. Whether it was technically an exact head and shoulder or not is not very important for me. It's more as the price action, meaning the bulls tried to run it and then failed a little bit, and then tried again and got a little further, and then failed a little bit, and then tried a third time and didn't match the second effort. So they told me that the bulls are getting tired, and they got to a point to where they can break down, and they did. The bounce came on the last. If you look at the last tick on the chart that they have to, it's if you draw a line on the two most recent deepest lows, this will be exactly the third one almost. Especially on a closed basis. So it's as good a level to bounce from as any. So I would not add shorts or anything here. And if it bounces and the markets do hold their bounce, then it should be fine. Short of another headline somewhere. So if I were shorted, I would not add to the shorts. I would take some profits, but that was the inclination then, that it didn't look good technically, and the markets were kind of overextended anyway. So why not pick on it?
Nick, we got Theo in the chat wanting to know your thoughts on Netflix. They're going to report here after the bell tonight. How are you approaching this Netflix earnings report?
It is so hard to do anything with the premiums being so crazy. It looks like the high point of interest based on the on the options is somewhere around 345 with Netflix. So
Okay.
I only do lottery tickets during Netflix. I buy them. I don't sell them like I usually do. And by that, I mean I only invest a little money just to participate. And sometimes I don't because it feels like I'm wasting money. So here I would just pick a direction, and I usually go with the market because I don't, unless I see something unusual. The markets are going to find any reason to rally this week. It seems like the whole world is convinced that we're going to get something fantastic from the ECB, which leaves us with the danger that what if they don't? But my theory, I'm coming back to the ECB because it ties into Netflix because of sentiment. And you've seen how sentiment has been so fragile the last couple of weeks. One day we're uber happy, and then the next day, or not even the next day, in the afternoon, we're like selling it off, or vice versa. So everybody's convinced that Draghi's going to deliver something on Thursday. I personally think that he can't, but he's going to sprinkle something and then promise more to come.
Why
So
can't
he,
he? Why can't he?
because logistically, don't they have legal issues with Merkel not wanting it and France touting it like, hey, it's a done deal, and then Merkel says no, we have some legal issues, and there's the Greece issue, Grexit. You don't want to hand over somebody a bag of money while they're thinking about leaving the band. So
Hmm.
it's I don't know. I just think that they can't deliver the bazooka that we've all been expecting for 2 years that they've been talking about. But if they can, we're going to rally. There's no doubt about it. So I would hate to short anything in the face of this week. Although I have a few shorts, but they have, quite a few, a lot to go before I get hurt. But they're offset by longs. So I'm trying to do some iron condors, but this week is for nimble traders only because it's a binary week. What if they disappoint on Thursday? It's going to be a sell off. So and maybe they deliver something and we pop, and then people realize that it's not as big a something that as we expected. So it's kind of a tricky week to play. So flip a coin and take a small position. You don't have to play Netflix into the earnings. You can play it just after the earnings with conviction because then you'll have visibility as to what's going on.
What about IBM? Are you looking at that one here? They report here after the bell too.
I did not look at IBM, but I was trying to see if it's still out of favor because for a while everybody just hated IBM. And if it really to look at IBM, you have to expand like multiple years. And it seems like you can draw a box between 150 and 165. And it's kind of like a transition period before the lower area where it used to play closer to 100 and the upper area closer to 200. And the market doesn't know where it wants to take it. It definitely doesn't want to take it 200, and it looks like 100 is too far. So they're like stuck in the middle between 150 and 165 area. It's kind of like there's not a lot of trade consolidation there. So they might it's really hard to gauge. And let me see if I can get any from the open interest on IBM to see how they're lined up for it. But I can't take it with conviction either way. I mean, I'm a guy that likes to trade on conviction. And if I don't have a thesis, I just don't want to trade it. Looks like, 155 to 160 is where the options want to trade it, but it's not heavy, so it doesn't give me any strong conviction in any which way. So earnings are always a coin flip. I've said this before. You can have the P&L ahead of time, and you still can't gauge how the market is going to react to it. So you can do all the research you want, and then the market reacts the way it wants to, and it's always a coin flip. You cannot say, okay, they're going to deliver this and say that, and the market's going to do this. It's
Yeah.
impossible. It's always a coin flip. I just don't understand how somebody can hold, millions of dollars into an earnings report.
Nick, her capital feels that the legal obstacles were overcome last week. I'm not exactly sure what.
That, the way I understood it, that wasn't just an opinion. It wouldn't have hurt them one way or another. It was just an opinion. So last week, had the headline come out not in favor, then it would have been a disaster price wise. But it wasn't binding either way. So it was just an opinion. It wasn't a ruling of sorts. It was an. I thought. I could be wrong. It was non-binding blurb, whatever it was, opinion
Non-binding
statement.
blurb. That's what you get out of the ECB over there. Well, you talk about the the problems with Greece, and like you said, giving them a bag of money before they're about to bolt. How do you think the move by the Swiss bank on Friday muddies the picture for the ECB and Mr. Draghi?
You know what? It doesn't help, and I can't believe that we've seen all the repercussions from that. I mean, given the severity of it. Plus, we also have Russia and Ukraine at blows right now with people dying, and we're not talking about that. I mean, there was a period of time where that headline alone would crash the market, and then you got China down 8% at one point in one day, and the lowest growth since the Tiananmen Square massacre. We're not talking about that. We're up 11 points. So
What caused that China decline?
I
Do we
think
know?
there's some margin issues. They change in
Oh,
part
yeah, I did
rules.
see that headline. Yeah.
So, but regardless of what it is, can you imagine these headlines? Each headline, they're massive headlines, and yet we're up 11
I
points.
can't believe it. Yeah.
That's all exuberance. That's all sentiment. And sentiment can turn on a dime. I can't chase this. And as far as what I'm looking at this week, I can't chase anything at the open, first of all. 2025 is going to be the first test for the bulls, and 2050 is going to be the second test for the bulls. Anything higher is resistance, but slightly so. And 2000 is still a decent high point of interest, and it should be supportive. So they're going to play in the sandbox that I've told you about weeks ago, where everybody was looking for all-time highs and everything. I said the markets are lined up to play between 2000 and 2050 more so than 2100. So we'll see how strong that statement will be tested this week heavily, because we have the mother of all green flags to run higher, which is the ECB. That's the biggest bazooka everybody's been talking about for 2 years. So this is it. Show me the money, and we'll see. Maybe Draghi can still yak his way out of it and sprinkle some. Say, hey, here's what we're going to do. We can't deliver the whole bazooka because of A, B, or C, but we're going to give you a little bit here and continue on promising maybe by the February meeting we'll do something.
Nick, those levels that you gave, are those bases the S&P cash? Is that what you were, the S&P 500 cash? Is that what you were?
No, that's based on the SPX positions in the market, in the options market.
Okay. I mean, because I think it's interesting too here because we are getting a pop, and the pops out of this area have been very strong. We've gone, that actually I got caught last Monday, or I believe when we were up at the 2050 level, kind of had the same thoughts, was a little bit early on the short. We ended up coming in later in the week. Now, we'll see if the bounce doesn't get back up to those previous highs. I believe it was 2057 or something like that. But yeah, you're kind of
That's important what you just said, because if you trend the last 20 days or so on like an hour chart, you will see that this right here, 2024 on the ES, the minis, is a breakout potential 2025. and it would put it into those highs comfortably. So if they can't get there with the technical help and the uberness coming, then that's telling that the appetite for risk is a little more fragile than it used to be.
Do you put any stock in the presidential cycle at all? We got another question coming out of Theo here.
I don't know enough about politics to be able to use that as an indicator. I'd rather use wherever people are putting the money and my global macroeconomic outlook, and trade those. Some things to look for today is one thing to look for in the pre-market is the small caps are not as optimistic as the broader markets, which is always a scary proposition. I like to see the small caps lead up and down to give validity to the sell-off or the run-up. So I'm looking today or this week at the small caps to see what they do, and more importantly at the momentum stocks. Believe it or not, because they really show the appetite for risk. So if the momentum stocks are being bought, then the markets are looking to run. But on the flip side, the momentum stocks all of 2014 have not been able to maintain their pop more than 24 hours. So they run high one day and they give it up the next day.
SF Bright making a decent point here in the chat. Just talking, obviously, we had the huge sell-off on Sunday night, Monday in China, but we're seeing stocks like Baidu, BIDU, we're seeing Alibaba both trade significantly higher here in the pre-market. What are your thoughts here on those two stocks, Baidu and Alibaba?
I'm long Alibaba. I've said Alibaba's trade is long term. If you believe markets are going to hold up and not crash, Alibaba has no specific issues to Alibaba. It's a company that can do 9 billion in one day. How can you argue with that? So if you want to be long something, plug your nose and buy that on every dip. This week it has some resistance at 99 and 100, but it has run against resistance before, so it's not a reason to short it. I am long it via, put spread, call spreads. I'm sorry, longer distance March, and I picked a broken wing this time just for giggles, and so it's kind of like a call calendar only with a little bigger eye hole for the needle as opposed to trying to thread the needle with a regular call fly. So those two don't have any specific issues to them. So I'll be more inclined to take longs in companies like that rather than to try to gamble on somebody like GoPro, which has a story still yet to develop.
What do you think of GoPro? You mentioned it. Wow.
It was my short. GoPro and Tesla were the two shorts I picked for 2015 when they were flying high. I was told to write an article about my thoughts for 2015, and part of the questions was pick your shorts, and I picked those two. So obviously, if somebody read that article and went short those two, has been well rewarded. From here on out, I mean, it's just any headline can take it up 20% GoPro. But I'm not going to sit around and wait for the headline. I'd rather trade something I know. Like if people sell Google, I'd rather buy Google on a sell-off. Reports soon, so I'm not doing anything until it does. But GoPro, it's been trading a descending channel for the last 6 months or so. I posted an article somewhere on it. I'll try to make it public and share it with you guys after I get off the phone here. But 40 area is the bottom end of that channel. If that channel breaks, 30s is coming, 35 to 37, which is the area where it first consolidated after the IPO. It's still in play. It just needs to break that descending channel lower end, and it will get there. The flip side of it, one little headline, and it could revisit the 65 area, which would be the upper end of that channel.
Barron's,
take it back into sorry, Joe. I just want to take it back into Google before we go into the Barron's. Google breached 500 there last week, and you had a lot of analysts coming out and saying things like Google may lose their dominance in search because of Facebook and Twitter. What are your thoughts there with a lot of individual obviously people not maybe logging onto their computer now to go to Google, but just searching through Twitter and Facebook? Is that a concern for Google?
I've never searched through Facebook and Twitter. I don't know about you, but it's really hard to search through Twitter. Mark Cuban said it the other day on some show on TV, and I was like, what?
I saw Cuban say it too. Yeah.
If I wanted, if I lived in nothing but stocks, maybe. But if I wanted to learn something about, how to uncork a bottle without a bottle opener, I'm not going to go to Twitter and look at that. I'm going to go at Google and search. It's my default browser search engine everywhere. just because I'm used to it. It doesn't give me junk. It doesn't try to sell me on 6,000 million things, and I just like it. For Google, I think what scared me out of going long in the redness is the fact that it was knocking on the open gap from the 880 to 980 before split, and that's a big gap. So I was just, I started reading some pretty technical guys calling for the 440s, which would puts it in the middle of that previously consolidated area before that big gap up from 880 to 980 pre-split, and that's wait. So the period of time I'm talking about would be May of 2013 through 10 of 2013. It had 3 months where it consolidated between 420 and 465 or something like that, and that would have been the target if they wanted to erase that open gap
Yeah,
on the.
I remember we went back and forth on this one a little bit, and you had asked me if I had covered my puts, and I did because I just had eyeballed that $500 level, and I missed it once. So I committed to myself if it came back down under 500 again. I remember you also talking. I don't know if this was a week or two that if it did dip under 500, that you were thinking of possibly trying to build a long position. I did
Yeah.
cover the short. We went back and forth on the long a little bit. Obviously, we didn't pull the trigger. I really would have been disappointed with the way the market got hit last week. Unfortunately, I use a little bit too much overall market emphasis when I'm trading individual stocks. And here's a stock that held up extremely well, and now firmly back over 500.
It held up really well, especially that it had a few bad headlines, including what Dennis just mentioned. And now we've had higher lows, and now it's coming to a point to where it's got a breakout potential from the descending channel. So if you draw a line over the top of all the highs except for that one little bump that brought it to 540, it's got a point where it can break out and add another $10. But it does have some resistance this week, and if I can take a peek at it, I may be able to give you on the Goog, not the Goog L. The first challenge is 510. Not too strong, but the stronger challenge is 515 on the Goog, not Google. So if it can break out of there, they have some room to run. And I said the markets have all the willingness to run. They all are primed to run. But where is the I mean, it's all sentiment based. So, and we can see how quickly they can turn from one day. We travel, hundreds of points this way and that way, and before the market opened, we had moved already 40 points on the ES and about like 100 points on the NQs. So it's just sentiment trading is really tricky, and it erases a lot of the homework. It puts people at a level field because you're just trading a headline and what perception is and all of that. So this week they're uber bullish, but just can't chase it. I just can't chase it. And I can't short it too tightly either, so be careful shorting. I have a few shorts, but they have time and space on my side, so markets can run up multiple percent without me getting hurt. And I do have some longs to offset them. And likewise, the longs also have a lot of percentage downside. Like I was long the 1900s SPX positions and 1910s, and those I put under pressure when the markets were selling off for no reason. So yeah, that's what I've been doing, just taking advantage of sentiment and see if I can put some trades that will, be paid in minutes.
Real quick, Theo is asking for any comment on Tesla before we let you go.
Sure. Tesla is obviously one of my shorts. I don't believe the story. I don't think they're innovators. I think they have a cool car. And I said that Elon is the biggest risk on Tesla price, stock price. He's obviously a smart guy, more so than what Jobs was to Apple, because Apple had a zillion products that sold out in minutes, whereas Tesla has only one or two products that maybe 1 or 2% of the people are able to buy it. Big difference. So anything Elon says is going to hit the price, and we saw that in action last couple of weeks. 200 is the high point of interest this week, and that's the only thing I can tell you as far as Tesla. It's more supportive than resistive. So where's it trading now? 193. So it has room to jump up $7 and still stick there. I don't have a reason to chase it. I don't see the story they're trying to sell. Long term, it's not like Baba where you can plug your nose and buy it. I don't want to buy a story that hasn't developed yet.
Okay, Nic Chahine, Market Find Maven and author of Create Income with Option Spread. Option Spreads. He comes on every Tuesday morning. We didn't even get to talk about Apple or Twitter or Facebook or any of those things,
Morning.
Nick. But we love your balanced input on the markets, and so do our traders. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much, guys.